Good morning, people. Welcome back to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. I hope everyone is doing well on this Tuesday morning. We've got an absolutely massive show to bring you guys today. But before we do that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show today, we are going to be talking a little bit about we're going to be talking about 5 players who look set to leave the club, which is really, really interesting. We've got some good, solid news on some outgoings. We've also got some news on what the rest of our ingoings are going to look like for the rest of this transfer window as well. We're going to be talking about a player who was sold yesterday, which some of you might have missed. He is part of the 5 players that are set to leave. We will be talking a bit about Benjamin Pavard. We'll be talking a bit about Rafael Varane. We've got an update on him. We'll also be talking a bit about Harry Maguire. We've got a bit of news on where the future lies for Harry. Also talking a little bit about Greenwood and about where his next club will be. We're not going to be delving on what happened yesterday and all the rest of it. We've already done a video on that. So we're just going to now be talking about what the next step is for Mason Greenwood, not, focusing on yesterday's video and all the rest of it. So let's move on to the show. Let's start off with the first player who looks set to leave the club this summer, and that is none other than Pellistri. Now, I think this is probably going to disappoint quite a lot of you, me included, but there's a story coming out from a couple of different journalists in the UK this morning saying that Sheffield United are in talks over a deal with Manchester United winger Pellistri to join them on a season-long loan. So this is coming out from 2 or 3 different UK-based journalists this morning. Now, what I will say about this one is, I know a lot of you in the chat are probably going to be sat at home saying, I would much rather see Pellistri over Antony. And you know what? I would somewhat agree. I would, because every time I see Pellistri, he excites me. He takes on his man. He tries to run past people, and he offers something which Antony doesn't. Ahmad's still injured, remember. Ahmad's out for another 2 or 3 months. So for me, loaning out Pellistri just makes us weaker. I don't think we have the luxury of loaning him out. I appreciate that Sheffield United for a season-long loan is a really, really good move for him. Like, by way of game time, he'll probably play every single game. It's a great bit of experience for him. But in relation to what we need, what Manchester United need, I'm not sure if it's the best decision. I think it's a little bit of a strange one, personally. Obviously, he would be getting Premier League game. He'd probably play every single game in the Prem. So for the actual player, I think it's a great move. It's great for his development. But for Manchester United, for our season, I'm a little bit concerned about letting Pellistri go. I really am. Especially with Ahmad being injured. Most of the fan base seem to not like Antony anymore. So then who do you then have in your right-sided midfield positions? You've got Antony, Mason Mount as a right wing, and Sancho, and that's kind of it. And Bruno as a right winger. I don't really like any of those as right wingers. I like Sancho, but I think for some reason Erik ten Hag doesn't really fancy him anymore. I just don't really want to have to rely on Antony for every single game. I think Antony's a good player, but I think we need other options. We need players to know that if they don't perform well, there are people waiting to take their position. And I think that Pellistri is somebody who is waiting to take Antony's position. He's waiting for his opportunity. And when he gets his opportunity, I think he'll take it. So I'm a little bit shocked about this one. I'm a little bit confused as to why we would let Pellistri go. But do let me know in the comment section what you think about this one. Would you let Pellistri go or would you keep him? Yeah, for me, I would keep him. But if we are going to look at it from the other side of the coin, I do appreciate that him getting Premier League's experience, playing every single match for Sheffield United is an incredible move for his career. That's really, really going to help him as a player. But I'm just not sure if we have the luxury of doing it. If we go and sign another attacking player in the next couple of weeks, then great, go and do it. If we go and put in a bid for Mohamed Kudus in the next couple of weeks, let Pellistri go. No stress whatsoever. But at the moment, I think our wing options look really, really weak. And I think everyone in the chat would agree with that. Garnacho's not had the best start. Antony's not had the best start. Sancho doesn't seem to be getting any game time. Ahmad's injured. What else do we really have? Are we going to be playing Mason Mount as a winger? I know that Mason Mount has played as a winger before, but I'm not really convinced about it. And I don't really like, Bruno as a winger. Let me know in the comments section what you think about Bruno Fernandes as a winger. I just don't think it works. I like Bruno Fernandes in the number 10 role, or sometimes when he sits next to Casemiro. Whenever Bruno's on that wing, I always think it doesn't work for me. I think you're taking away a really, really important player and putting him somewhere where he isn't actually very effective. So for me, I would keep Pellistri, but let me know what you think in the comment section. It is worth noting, though, just to give you the full picture, Manchester United will give him a new contract, apparently. He's going to get a new contract, so we're securing him for the future. That's one positive from this story. We definitely will be giving him a new contract, and yeah, giving him a new contract, and then it looks like he will be loaned out. But let me know what you would do with Pellistri. What do you think is best for his development? Do you think we should let him go? Do you think we should keep him? Let me know in the comment section. I always like to see what you guys think. Just a quick reminder as well, the transfer window closes a week on Friday. So we've got about 10 days left of the window, so there's a lot of business that still needs to be done. Right, so that was the first player who looks set to leave the club. Now, the second one is somebody who has actually already left the club. They left yesterday, so we're going to jump into that now, and that is Noam Emery. Now, some of you might be unaware with who this player is. He had a really, really good couple of games in the pre-season. He got a goal and assist. I think it was against... Was it against Arsenal? I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyway, he's a French winger, 20 years of age. He did well in pre-season, and he was one of the people who I thought would maybe... I didn't think he would be a first-team starter, but I thought he might get some bench, some time off the bench, maybe get a couple of minutes in the Carabao Cup, maybe some minutes in the FA Cup, or maybe go out on loan somewhere. I thought that was probably the best option for him. But Manchester United have confirmed that apparently they've agreed a deal with Groningen, the Dutch side, for a permanent deal for Noam Emery. Apparently there's a release clause. Sorry, not a release clause, a buyback clause. He joined from PSG at the age of 16, and he's somebody who looks really, really good. He does. And I'm a little bit disappointed about this one. We don't know at this stage how much money Manchester United will be getting for this transfer. But if the Zidane Iqbal deal is anything to go by, my guess is it will be somewhere around €1 million, maybe a little bit less, something around that kind of mark. So I'm not sure what to think about this. Obviously Erik ten Hag knows best. We trust him. If Erik ten Hag thinks he's not good enough, if Erik ten Hag thinks he needs to leave, then fine, get rid of him. But from what I saw of him, I thought he looked good. When we watched those pre-season matches, which to be honest were a little bit dull, weren't they? He was one of the standout performers for me. He looked really, really good. When he came on, he did more than what our first team players did. So obviously I wish him all the best. Hopefully he goes and has a really good career. I assume the player probably wanted to move to get some game time. So let's wish Noam Emery all the best. He is the second player to leave in the next couple of weeks. Now, the next one is Dean Henderson. We have a bit of an update on Dean Henderson for you. So obviously, Dean Henderson has been heavily linked to Nottingham Forest all summer, but it now looks like Dean Henderson will be moving to Crystal Palace. Fabrizio Romano has come out saying Crystal Palace are currently ahead of Nottingham Forest in the race to sign Dean Henderson. Negotiations are ongoing with both club and player side. Henderson is expected to leave Manchester United. So it looks like Dean Henderson will be going, and it looks like it will be a loan with an obligation to buy, which is good because Nottingham Forest were trying to do it with an option to buy. Nottingham Forest wanted it to be if he played 30 matches for Nottingham Forest this season, then they would sign him, which is stupid. We've already played 2 matches. There's only 36 matches of the Premier League season left. So we'd have had to play every single match in the Premier League in order for them to buy them. Whereas Crystal Palace's offer is a loan, but they'll guarantee they'll buy him at the end of the season, which is obviously really, really good. So I think this one will happen, and that will be the third person to leave the club. How much do you guys think the obligation to buy will be? Let me know in the comment section. I think somewhere around 15 to 20 million pounds would be a fair price for the obligation to buy. I think somewhere in that kind of region would be acceptable. I know that still seems quite low when you see Man City selling their reserve goalkeeper for what, 20 million was it from the under-21s? So you would kind of hope you'd get a little bit more for Dean Henderson. But at this point, I think we just need to take the money. If he's not part of the plans, Erik ten Hag doesn't want him. He doesn't want to be here. You just need to get those people out of the club because they just create a toxic atmosphere behind the scenes. And we all know that. We all know what people say, that, people are leaking stuff to the press and all the rest of it. We need to get people in the squad who only believe in what Erik ten Hag's plans are. And Henderson is definitely not that person. So no issue with Henderson going. Get rid of him. Hopefully we get a good bit of money on the obligation to buy next season. But let me know how much you think will be a fair price for Dean Henderson. I'm going with somewhere between 15 and 20 million. I think that's realistic. Whether it's fair or not is up for debate, but I think around that kind of fee would be realistic. Right. Now, the fourth player we've got on our list today is Donny van de Beek. So there's a story coming out from Samuel Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News this morning saying Donny van de Beek is free to depart Manchester United on a permanent basis, and the club are currently holding discussions with Real Sociedad. So it seems like the Real Sociedad deal is still on. Obviously, Donny van de Beek was not part of the squad on Saturday against Tottenham, and Erik ten Hag came out after the game and pretty much said that he's not part of the plans going forward and that he will leave the club. The same with Brandon Williams. And Samuel Luckhurst also reports that United are looking for another midfielder and could sign and will sign if Donny van de Beek leaves. So it looks like Donny van de Beek will go. They're just trying to work out what's the best deal for him. It does look like it will again be a loan with an option or an obligation to buy. So there's not going to be any money coming in. That's another player who we're not getting any money for, which is absolutely mad, isn't it, when you actually think about it? But yeah, that's the fourth player. Now the fifth one is Brandon Williams. Again, he's been frozen out of the project. He is not somebody who Erik ten Hag fancies in his squad. He's not somebody that we know is going to get any game time. Brandon Williams and Eric Bailly. So there's more than 5 really. I've just tried to narrow it down a bit. Eric Bailly and Brandon Williams have both been told they're free to leave permanently if suitable offers arrive. So in relation to Eric Bailly, it looks like he will be joining Fulham. This will be as a free transfer though, which is a bit frustrating. Not any money for him. He'll go there. Obviously, they'll pay his wages and we'll kind of terminate his contract mutually. So it's not been the best, has it, by way of raising funds this summer? We haven't really helped ourselves. When you look at our net spend and you say, our net spend's so high, it's because we're so bad at selling players. That's the black and white of it, isn't it? It's not because we don't have good players. We have some people who are worth money. Donny van der Beek is definitely worth money. Dean Henderson's definitely worth money. Eric Bailly, most clubs would be able to get a few million for him. But for some reason, we're just incapable of actually selling any of these people. We have to loan them out with the hope that they then get bought in a year or two. It is very frustrating. And it's just, we're not the type of club who buy people and make them worth more money. It seems like, it's like when you take a car out of the garage. That's what Manchester United's like, right? We buy the car for the top price, okay? And then the second you take that car out of the garage, it then just depreciates in value. Nothing that ever comes to Manchester United goes up in value. The only exceptions maybe Cristiano Ronaldo. I can't remember the last time we bought somebody and actually made profit on him. I think the last one was Dan James. I think we bought him for just under 10 million and we sold him for 11 million to Leeds. That was the last time in probably 10 years that we've bought a player and sold him for more, and that was for like $1 million. Where you see like Manchester City selling people, you see all these other clubs, Liverpool selling all of their deadwood, whatever you want to call them, to Saudi for ridiculous amounts of money. But for some reason, we just really struggle to do that. We've got over 1,000 people watching this morning, guys, which is absolutely massive. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're only 10 subscribers away from 14,300, so please go and subscribe if you haven't already. We're live every single day at 8 and 6 p.m. and we do videos in the day as well, so do get involved in the community. Right, but yeah, let me know how you feel about the situation around the outgoings. Who do you think is at fault for this? I mean, it has to be John Murtough, Richard Arnold, obviously Ed Woodward before, because it's not like it's just happened under Erik ten Hag. We've been in this same rut for the last 10 years. We never were able to sell players. We bring them in, we give them ridiculous wages, we pay stupid money to the club for them, and then the next season they're worth half of the amount of money that we bought them for. You know, you look at Sancho, you look at Anthony. None of these people have any sell-on value. Anthony, how much do you think Anthony's worth now? 30 million, 40 million? Sancho, 30 million, 40 million? You get where I'm going with this. Maguire, 20 million, 30 million, you know? So I don't really know who's at fault here for paying these astronomical wages, astronomical transfer fees, bringing the people in and not being able to actually develop them into anything worth more than what they were paid for. It's very frustrating. And by the looks of it, pretty much every single one of the players who we've spoke about on today's show are going to go out on loan. It doesn't look like any of them will actually raise any money for Manchester United. So Donny looks like a loan. Brandon Williams, who knows? Eric Bailly, free transfer. Dean Henderson, loan. Noam Emery we sold yesterday. That will be some money, but it will be like around £1 million probably tops. So out of 5 or 6 players who will probably leave in the next week or so, maybe one of them will get some money for. The rest of them will just be loans, where we're paying half of the wages. It's terrible. It really is terrible. And like, when, you know, especially when rival fans who don't know the full picture say, oh, look at your net spend, look at this, look at that. All you have to say to them is, well, of our business this summer, we've only sold Anthony Elanga and Alex Telles for any money. All of our other players who are worth money, Dean Henderson, Donny van der Beek, all of these people are just going to go on loan. It's ridiculous. It really is frustrating. So people will be leaving the club. People are going, but it looks like most of it will be on a loan basis. Right, now let's move over to the incomings, because I know that's what a lot of you are here for, and I know a lot of you are excited about. So let's start off with Amrabat. Now, obviously, there was a bit of a scare last night because apparently Atletico Madrid have entered the race to sign Amrabat. So anybody who's unaware of what's going on, Rodrigo de Paul looks set to move to Saudi Arabia. Apparently, they're in talks at the moment. This is what Fabrizio was saying last night. So Rodrigo de Paul of Atletico Madrid will move to Saudi Arabia. And apparently Amrabat is the #1 target to replace is the number one target to replace him at Atletico. Now, what does this mean for us? It means that if we actually want Amrabat, which I think is now being questioned amongst the fan base, there's a lot of people in this fan base saying, surely if we actually wanted Amrabat, we would have gone and got this deal done weeks ago. To go into the season with no replacement for Fred is an absolute joke. I know I said on this channel that I didn't think Fred was good enough to play for Manchester United, but I would much rather have Fred than have nobody. Because Fred isn't a bad player. He does a good job, all right? Against some teams, he is useful. He's not world class, but he works hard. He can defend. You know, he's one of those players that's useful to have. But my whole argument the whole time was, well, if we're going to buy Amrabat, that's an upgrade. Getting rid of Fred and then not getting a replacement is absolutely unacceptable. It is. We saw that in the first 2 games of the season. Both of those games, we've been screaming out for a midfielder. Mason Mount and Bruno don't work. We need another midfielder, a number 6. You know, ideally you want someone like Frenkie de Jong. Obviously we're not going to get him, but somebody of that profile, don't we? Somebody to slot in next to Casemiro, which allows Bruno Fernandes to play further up the pitch. And Fred was absolutely incredible at doing that. He was incredible alongside Casemiro, allowing the attacking players to go forward, and he would kind of sit back and he would just, you know, put in a lot of hard work. So for us to get rid of Fred and not have a replacement, and now being told we need to sell another player in order to get Fred's replacement, you're sat there thinking, well, where's Fred's replacement? Why do we need to sell Donny? You're telling me that somebody who played... let's just have a look at this quickly. How many games did Fred play for Manchester United last season? Like, surely Donny van de Beek should have gone first and kept Fred, waited until, you know, you had the Amrabat deal agreed, and then sell Fred. Does that make sense? Like, why would you sell Fred knowing that you still have to sell more players in order to buy Amrabat? It makes zero sense. Fred last season, right? All of those of you who are slagging him off, he played 35 games in the Premier League for us last season. He played 9 games in the Europa, 6 games in the FA Cup, and 6 games in the League Cup. He played 56 matches for Manchester United last season, Fred. And we haven't replaced him. 56. That's absolutely mad, isn't it? I mean, he even got 6 goals and 6 assists last season. He was probably one of our top goal scorers. Because other than Rashford, we didn't really score many goals. He got 12 goals and assists in 56 matches, and we haven't replaced him. When you compare that with someone like Donny van de Beek, how many games did he play? But you get my point here. It's just like, how can they say we need to sell somebody else to replace somebody? It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. And it's now just really, really starting to frustrate me because we all know we need Amrabat. We've seen that for the first 2 games of the season. And if Atletico Madrid now come knocking and take him, what do we do then? We get Gravenberch on loan. What happens next season when Gravenberch goes back to Bayern Munich? Like, we're not thinking for the future, are we? Somebody in the chat saying we should loan Fred back. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Do you know what's actually a disgrace as well, right? You know, I'm usually very positive on this channel, but today I'm just feeling a little bit annoyed with the lack of business. So the fee that we actually ended up getting for Fred, right? It's been confirmed now. It's on Transfer Market. We got 9.7 million euros up front. That was all we got. 9.7. What's that in pounds? So we got about £8 million for Fred. That's awful. That's so bad. 30 years of age. When you consider that last season we paid £60 million plus for Casemiro. I know obviously Casemiro is a better player than Fred, but they're both the same age. They both play in the same position. We got £8 million for Fred, and we paid 60 million plus for Casemiro, who's the same age last season. Like, he was definitely worth 20 million euros, definitely. So yeah, it is all a bit frustrating. So in relation to Amrabat, let's go back to Amrabat then. So obviously, Atletico Madrid have now entered the race. Fabrizio Romano has come out this morning saying Sofian Amrabat remains on Manchester United list, but is now appreciated by Atletico Madrid. He has a very strong chance of leaving Fiorentina before the end of this transfer window. So at the moment, it looks like it's a battle between Manchester United and Fiorentina. Yeah, a battle between the two. So I don't know. I'm just really frustrated about this. I am. I really, really do think we need to sign Amrabat. We need to sign Gravenberch. We need a goalkeeper. We need a striker. And that's not me being greedy. I've seen how we've played these first 2 games of the season, and I'm worried. I am. I back Erik ten Hag 110%. I think he's the right man for the job. All of this boils back to the ownership. It boils back to the people they employ. John Murtaugh, Richard Arnold. They're all a bunch of muppets. They can't do the job properly. They're incompetent. They sell a player for £8 million, Fred, and now they're saying we can't replace him unless we get rid of somebody else. Like, just try and work that out for a second. It makes zero sense. You're telling me somebody who played 56 matches for Manchester United last season, you're not going to replace. It's so frustrating, but let's just hope that they get their act together and they go and get this Amrabat deal done, because I genuinely believed when I woke up on Monday morning that we would see Amrabat joining Manchester United. I thought we would see a reaction. I thought we would see Manchester United going into the transfer market and getting the deal done. Samuel Luckhurst has been talking about it as well. He says if Manchester United truly wanted to sign Sofyan Amrabat, he would be in Manchester already now. You know what? I kind of agree with him a little bit. I do. The deal has been there all summer. All summer we've been talking about Sofyan Amrabat. I'm going to look back on the channel. I think we've been talking about him for 2 months now, right? He wants to come to Manchester United. He rejects Liverpool. He rejects Saudi. He rejects all of these other places, and yet he's still not a Manchester United player. It really, really does baffle me. Fabrizio Romano's come out as well saying that Amrabat remains the top name in Manchester United's list for a midfielder. This is what Fabrizio's just said, that he's the top name. I mean, if he's the top name, just go and buy him. What are you waiting for? Like, I don't get it. It makes no sense. And I don't understand why they're saying we need to get rid of Donny van de Beek. We're not even going to get any money for Donny van de Beek. It's a loan. You don't get money for loans, right? Loans, they pay half the wages usually. So it makes zero sense. It really, really does. And when you look at our wage bill's been reduced massively this window. I worked it out on a video a couple of days ago. And I think at this point, when you calculate all of the players who've left Manchester United and you minus it by the players who've joined, I think our wage bill's gone down by about 30 or 40 million pounds this summer. So we've massively decreased our wage bill. So you can't sit here and say, oh, our wage bill's too high. We have too many players. We need to get rid of Donny. You know, it's absolute rubbish. And I've seen the light to it in these last couple of days, and I'm just growing frustrated with it. But let me know what somebody in the chat saying the Rodrigo de Paul deal has collapsed. Oh, we got a bit of let's have a look if I can see any news about that. Oh, yeah, there we go, guys. Okay, so things change quickly in football, don't they? Fabrizio Romano, in the last 10 minutes, has reported that Rodrigo de Paul deal to Saudi Arabia has collapsed. Al Ahly are prepared to focus on their main target in the midfield after a 32 million negotiation finally broken on Monday night. De Paul prepared to stay at Atleti and will fight for his club after speaking to Diego Simeone. So maybe we can just disregard all of that bit that I've just said. The only way that Amrabat was going to Atletico was if Rodrigo de Paul went to Saudi Arabia. It looked set last night that he was going to go, but as we've just seen, Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that that deal has now collapsed. So we're back in the lead for Amrabat, but we can't be complacent. We've got a week left of the transfer window. What's to say now that one of these Saudi clubs don't come knocking again for Amrabat and offer him absolutely ridiculous wages, you know? Stuff like that does happen. All right, let's move on to the next target. So obviously Amrabat we've just covered. Anybody who wants to know about Amrabat, just rewind that bit of the show and you can find out everything at the moment. Right, the next one is the goalkeeper position. So obviously we've been heavily linked to the goalkeeper from Benfica, Odysseus Vlachodimos. I've probably butchered his name. I do apologise. So Fabrizio Romano has reported this morning there's a good chance for Manchester United to activate Odysseus Vlachodimos deal in the next few days, maybe next week. Talks have been positive on the player's side and he's keen to move to Manchester United. It now depends on the final conditions from Benfica. So at the moment, this goalkeeper seems to be not playing for Benfica. He seems to be on strike. I don't know. To be honest, I'm not trying to be negative this morning, but it's another decision I question. Why have you just got rid of Matic Kovar to bring in some goalkeeper that apparently isn't even anything like Onana? I watched a load of videos on him yesterday. He's not a ball-playing goalkeeper. He's more of a De Gea-style goalkeeper. He's good at shot-stopping, but he's not great at distribution. Why are we spending money on a backup goalkeeper who doesn't play the style of football we want to play? Why did we not just keep Matic Kovar? Why did we not just keep Dean Henderson? Like, it makes zero sense to me. If we're going to get this guy for free, then great, go and do it. But we're obviously not. We're going to have to pay a fee for him. So, I don't know. That's supposedly going to be the second incoming, which makes a little bit of a confusion for me on this show this morning, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, right. Anyway, let's move on to the next player. So the third player is Ryan Gravenberch, who is of course somebody that is really, really appreciated on this channel. Now, I just want to say from the beginning, right? For me, Amrabat on his own is not enough. He simply is not enough. We need both Amrabat and we need Gravenberch. We need both of them. We can't just go with one. Two of them is absolutely essential. I think both of them as a midfield, alongside Amrabat, Casemiro, Gravenberch, Mount, and Bruno. That's a solid midfield. Amrabat on his own, I'm still a bit concerned. I am, because what happens if Casemiro gets injured? What happens if Amrabat gets injured? You have nobody. Scott McTominay's clearly not part of Erik ten Hag's plans, which is fine. If he's not part of his plans, sell him. Scott McTominay needs to go before the end of this transfer window, that's for sure. The fact that at the game on Saturday against Tottenham, we were crying out for somebody to slot into that midfield, and Erik ten Hag doesn't bring on Scott McTominay, right? That's fine if you sell him. You can't have somebody who's worth £40 million, whatever you want to price him at, right? You can't have an asset like that sat on the bench and not use him, especially when we're having to loan out every single player we have. Get rid of McTominay, use the money and reinvest it somewhere else. Invest it in a player that he actually wants to play. That's what we have to do. So in relation to Gravenberch, Fabrizio Romano has said that apparently Manchester United and Liverpool are both in talks with the player himself, and both are really, really leading the race for him. Now, will he go to Liverpool? Maybe. So the story says Ryan Gravenberch remains a big admirer of Ten Hag and fears that he'll lose his place in the Dutch national squad if he spends another season on the bench. So obviously at Bayern Munich, he's surplus to requirements. He's only been there 1 year. He signed for about 20 million euros. For me, I'd go and get him on loan with an obligation to buy. I think that would be an incredible bit of business. So Fabrizio said last night, Ryan Gravenberch's situation is still the same as 3 days ago. Manchester United, Liverpool both called Bayern to be informed on the situation. It depends on Bayern. At the moment, they're insisting on keeping him. Now, that was last night's news. Since then, we've had another story coming out about Gravenberch, and Sky Sports are reporting the following. Sky Sports say Bayern Munich are no longer ruling out the departure of midfielder Ryan Gravenberch this summer, with 2 Premier League clubs interested. So the option is there. The deal is there to be done, and I think it is one that will probably happen. I think we will go in for him in the last couple of weeks of the window. Well, it is the last week of the window. I think within the next week, we'll see these links amplifying, and I just hope that it's a permanent deal or a loan with an option at the end of it, because if he comes and does really, really well, then it doesn't really help us in the long run, does it? It's a short stop option, and I think he's someone who we should be bringing into Manchester United. But let me know what you think about Gravenberch in the comment section. Is he somebody you would like to see at Manchester United? Is he somebody that you think's good enough? 21 years of age, obviously played under Erik ten Hag before at Ajax. He was in the Dutch national squad, but has now lost his place because he doesn't play for Bayern. And do you actually think that Ryan Gravenberch would get started? That's the question I wanted to ask you. Do you think he would actually get game time at Manchester United? And whose position do you think he would take? I just don't think that you can play Mason Mount and Bruno in the same midfield. Maybe you put Mason Mount on the right wing. Maybe we try that. But I just don't think a midfield three of Casemiro and Bruno and Mount works. Mason Mount and Bruno are just not physical enough. They're not good defensively enough. They run, they work hard, but they're just not, they don't have the defensive mind of a CDM, do they? Because they're not CDMs. So it does just concern me that if we're getting destroyed by Wolves, destroyed by Tottenham, what happens when we play an actual good side? No offence to those two, but let's be honest. Manchester City and Tottenham are levels apart. Liverpool and Tottenham are levels apart. Arsenal and Tottenham are levels apart, you know? When we actually go and have to face a difficult side, we could get absolutely battered if we carry on playing the way we have in the last couple of days. So there's some breaking news coming out in the last couple of minutes. Let's see who this is coming from. So there's a journalist in Italy right now reporting that Manchester United have agreed a fee with Fiorentina worth around £29 million to sign Sofian Amrabat. Personal terms are also agreed. United are waiting to sell McTominay or Van der Beek before completing the deal. So it's another one of those stories which is just pretty much saying nothing, telling us that a deal's been agreed, but it's not been agreed. Until it happens, I don't believe it. I really, really don't. Yeah, it's just frustrating now, isn't it? Why do we need to, like, I've just said this. We're not going to get any money for Donny van der Beek. So why are we waiting to loan Donny van der Beek to bring someone else in? It makes zero sense. I still do have a feeling that McTominay is going to leave, though. This is just, so we've gone through the 5 people that I think are going to go and the 3 people who I think are going to come in. And those ones are all based on actual research and, you know, quotes from journalists and all the rest of it. Now, if you want my honest opinion on what I think is going to happen in the next couple of the next week of the window, I still think there's a high chance that McTominay is going to go, and I think there's a chance that Maguire will go. Now, the reason I think this is because other clubs now know the kind of fee that they would have to pay for both of those players. They know that they can get Maguire for around 30. They know that they can probably get McTominay for around 35 to 40, right? McTominay didn't play on the weekend. Maguire didn't play on the weekend. Both of those players seem to be being frozen out of the team by Erik ten Hag. He's quietly pushing them out. He's telling us in press conferences that, he's telling us in press conferences that he wants them in the team and he's happy for them. But he's not playing them. It's pretty obvious that he doesn't want them in the team. Otherwise, he would be playing them, right? I think anybody can work that out. So I honestly think there's a chance that they will both go, but it just depends on what the deal will be, who it will be, etc. We have still got about a week left, haven't we? And there is always the chance that people get injured and people then come in to the market looking for a new centre-back to replace a backup. So, for example, Aston Villa need a centre-back now. Tyrone Mings has just got a really bad injury. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But like I just said with that bit of Amrabat news, we've been told for about a month that the deal has already been agreed and they're waiting for something to happen. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So let's just leave that for now. We've got over 1,300 of you watching this morning. Big ups to everybody in the community. Please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm going to pop a link in the chat to subscribe now. And if you want to join the members club, I'm also going to drop a link in the chat to do that as well, because I never really plug that. So there you go. I've just plugged it. If you want to join the members club and you want to support the channel, you can just hit the $ or follow the link in the chat. Right, let's talk a little bit about Mason Greenwood really quickly. Now, just to be very clear, we're not going to go over old ground with Mason Greenwood anymore because I just think it's pointless. The decision's been made, whether that's right or wrong, whether the club handled it badly or not. We've already discussed all of that and we've all kind of come to the same conclusion. So let's just agree and move on with that one. Now, let's look at where he looks set to go. So there's a story coming out from Neil Custis this morning saying that Steven Gerrard's side, Al Ettifaq, are set to offer Mason Greenwood a contract worth £10 million per year to go and move to the Saudi League. 2 or 3 other journalists have come out in the last kind of half an hour or so saying that as soon as the announcement came out that he wasn't going to be part of the Manchester United team anymore, a number of clubs in Saudi Arabia had contacted Manchester United immediately about bringing him over to the Saudi League. Now, I think this would be a great move for him. I do. And if we could sell him and actually get some money, I think that would be incredible. I think it would be good for everybody. So let's hope that Mason Greenwood gets his move to Saudi. The thing you have to remember as well is the Saudi transfer window doesn't close until I think it's the 20th of September. So there's about a month left of the Saudi transfer window. So this deal doesn't have to happen in the next week. There's a bit of time for it all to happen. It's a bit of time for it to materialize. So yeah, hopefully this one does go through. There's a story coming out as well, just literally in the last minute, saying that apparently Rasmus Hojlund will be included in the squad for the game against Nottingham Forest. So it looks like he will be on the bench for the game against Nottingham Forest. That's really good news. Really happy about that. I would have been absolutely gutted if it had been we had to wait all the way to the Arsenal game. So it does look like we will get to see Rasmus Hojlund on Saturday against Nottingham Forest, which I'm absolutely buzzing for because we're desperately crying out for a striker. We're desperately crying out for somebody to score the goals. Do you know what? I saw a really interesting stat a couple of days ago, and we've got the second highest XG in the Premier League. Brighton was top. Sorry, it was the third highest. Brighton was top. Newcastle was second, and we were third. Our XG for the first 2 games was about 6 or 7 goals combined. Yet we've only scored 1 goal. If anybody doesn't know what XG is, it's expected goals. So it's based on how good the chances are you have. And so our XG, we are creating chances. We're just not finishing them, and we're creating good chances. So we're desperately crying out for Rasmus to come in, and it looks like he will. Chai says, would we get money if Greenwood's contract is terminated? Greenwood's contract hasn't been terminated. So, it hasn't been terminated. He's still being paid by Manchester United. So we can sell him. That can happen. We can sell him and we can get money for him. So just to be very clear, it has not been terminated. Now, on a little side note, we've got a bit of an update on Rafael Varane. Obviously, there was a story coming around yesterday saying that apparently Saudi clubs were entering the race to sign Rafael Varane. And there's a story coming out this morning saying that Rafael Varane to Saudi hasn't got any truth in it. The player is happy at Manchester United and doesn't want to leave. So it looks like Varane will be staying here, which is really good. I think that would have been a massive loss to Manchester United if we'd have lost Rafael Varane, because I think he's a quality player. I think he's one of our only, maybe in the 2 or 3 world-class players in our team. I appreciate he is injury prone. I appreciate he can't play 2 times a week anymore. But when he does play, I think he is a quality player. So I'm very happy that he will be staying at Manchester United, because I do think he is a good addition to the team. I do, however, think that we need to probably replace him in the next year or so. Obviously, he's only got 2 years left of his deal, Rafael Varane. So it is somebody that in the next kind of year we will have to look at. I'm going to answer some of your questions as well now. So if you do have any questions, please do get them in the live chat. Put the letter Q in front of your message, and I will read out as many as I can before the show ends. We've got about 5 minutes left of the show, so do get your questions in, and I will circle back to them. Hendrick says, Kieran, which team will McTominay or Maguire go to at this point in time? Nobody. United are a disaster. If I was a United player, I would consider my future. I still think that McTominay might go to West Ham, you know. And in relation to Maguire, who knows? Aston Villa, maybe? Mila says, who will sub Anthony if Pellistri is gone on loan the next 2 months? I don't know, my friend. That's exactly my point. Will it be Sancho? I guess it'll be Sancho. I just think when you look at our bench, like look at the bench we played on Saturday against Tottenham, right? I thought the bench looked okay. I wouldn't say it was amazing. It's obviously not on the level of Manchester City, but I thought we had options. I just don't really see why you would loan out Pellistri. Like, look at so our bench on Saturday was Diogo Dalot, great. Christian Eriksen, good. Sancho, good. Pellistri, good. Martial, yeah. Vitek, yeah. McTominay, yeah. Henderson, yeah. Lindelof. So of our bench, I'd say 4 of them are people who are actually going to get game time. The rest of them are just like people who are there just for the sake of it. Letting rid of Pellistri go, it does concern me, but obviously it's not up to us. People talking about Amad Diallo. Amad Diallo's injured. Amad Diallo's injured for a couple of months. Let me just have a look how long he's out for. I think it's 2 or 3 months. Yeah, he's going to be out for the first part of the season. So I would say he's probably going to be out till around Christmas, to be honest. I can't remember what it was. I think it's a knee injury. Yeah, it's a knee injury that he had in the Arsenal game. So he's going to be out for a while, Amad Diallo. We can't rely on him. Somebody says, is the takeover likely this season? You know what? I still think that something's going to happen once the transfer window ends. I think we're going to get a big story when the transfer window ends. That's just my opinion. I haven't been given that information from anyone, but I am hopeful that we will get a big bit of takeover news in the next couple of weeks. We've just got to be patient. I mean, I'll be honest, the more this window goes on, it feels like a Glazer window. Anybody in the chat who before was saying, oh, Sheikh Jassim's already taken over, he's pulling the strings, you know, he's buying all these players. Like, if this is a Qatar Sheikh Jassim transfer window, then that's a worry, isn't it? You know, I honestly don't think this is a Sheikh Jassim transfer window. I think this is just the Glazers transfer window. We can all tell that. It's a blatant Glazers transfer window, isn't it? Lucky Solomon says, where did the glory of United signing world-class players every new season get lost at? Yeah, that is one thing I will say. We haven't made a marquee signing this summer. We haven't. Rasmus Hojlund isn't a marquee signing. Onana's not a marquee signing, and neither's Mason Mount. Last year we got Casemiro. You know, even Anthony, I know he's not a marquee signing, but he was a bigger, more exciting name. I don't think any of these 3 players we've signed this year you could class as a marquee signing, could you? I don't think so anyway, but let me know. I do still think we will get some sort of marquee signing of some point. Who will it be? Jin says, hypothetically, if we got bought out by new owners, would you go and hire the entire Brighton board and staff? Yeah, 100%. 100%. The Brighton board and staff are doing an absolutely incredible job. Hats off to them. Joe says, Kieran, what's the reason for United need to sell players before buying others? Is it because of financial fair play or United have got no money to spend? Well, Manchester United do have money to spend. We've got our rolling credit facility where we have around £200 million reportedly available. The issue is that Manchester United are worried that if they bring in people, it will then make their other players unsellable, right? Which is complete rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. The amount of money we've got for our players anyway has been an absolute disgrace. They can't tell us that we're not buying Amrabat because then it means that we won't be able to sell Donny van de Beek. All the other clubs will know that we need to sell Donny van de Beek and we're desperate. We're not even getting any money from him as it is. So what are they saying? If we buy Amrabat now, we'll have to give Donny van de Beek away for free and pay his wages and all the rest. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. That's been the line though from the club that, you know, they don't want to buy people and then be stuck with people at the end of the window and be having to be desperate to sell them. We're already desperate to sell them and we haven't even bought anyone. So it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Somebody's asking about Anthony Martial. Anthony Martial's gone very, very quiet. Literally nothing to report on Anthony Martial. There was a story saying that Saudi clubs were interested. That's gone completely quiet again now. So I would probably say that Anthony Martial is going to stay at Manchester United. And do you know what? I'm going to be very honest here. Anthony Martial, in the 10-15 minutes that he came on against Tottenham, looked better than any of our front 3 players in both of those games against Wolves and Tottenham, I think. I think he looked better than Rashford, he looked better than Garnacho, and he looked better than Anthony. So, you know what? I'm going to back Anthony Martial. We need him. He did a better job than any of those attackers did in the whole of the rest of those 2 games. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know in the comment section. But at this point, I think we'd be stupid to get rid of Anthony Martial because we can't score goals. The front three looked rubbish, and Anthony Martial actually looked all right. Sancho looked all right. So I would keep him now. I would. Yeah, so many people saying keep Martial. Yeah, he's 100% needed. If he's fully fit, Martial is world class. He is, I think. He was for a very, very small period of time, wasn't he? When he first came to the club, for 1 or 2 seasons, he was getting into that question mark of, he was in the France team. Everyone was saying what a great signing he was. And then he just got really badly injured. He was a good player at one point. He was. Let's not forget that. Injuries just completely ruined him. Everything Carpy says, do you think the mess at the club with the board, with the takeover players are not going... Do you think the mess at the club with the takeover players not going who Ten Hag don't want and not getting his main targets is clearly affecting the team this season? Yeah, 100%. Just think about all of the noise that's going on behind the scenes. There's the takeover, there's Mason Greenwood, there's players being brought in who probably weren't the first choice signings, you know? Rasmus Hojlund wasn't the first choice signing. We know that. He wanted Kane, he wanted Osimhen. He even apparently put in a bid for Kolo Muani, was being reported yesterday, 70 million euros that was rejected. So you're bringing in these people who, for overinflated fees, right, with a lot of pressure on it. You've already got half the fan base saying they want Mason Mount out. Like, it's just very toxic at the moment, and it's not a good way to start the season for anybody. Yeah, so just a final little bit on Harry Maguire before we end the video. So Fabrizio Romano has said, Harry Maguire's situation is now completely quiet. Nothing is happening with Maguire after his move to West Ham collapsed. So Manchester United are not close to signing a new centre-back. So it looks like Maguire will be staying at this moment in time. The only way I see him going is if someone like Aston Villa comes knocking. Obviously, as I said, Tyrone Mings has just done his ACL, I think. He's injured for a long time anyway. They need a new centre-back. I had this thought yesterday, right? And let me know if you think this is completely crazy. But do you think there's any world in which Bayern Munich try and replace Benjamin Pavard with Harry Maguire? I don't know. I know it sounds crazy. I know it does. But maybe Harry Maguire works in the Bundesliga. Maybe he does. People were saying in the chat that Lukaku's coming back. I mean, if Lukaku comes back, I wouldn't be surprised anymore. I really, really wouldn't. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who has watched the show this morning. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video on your way out, and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We will, of course, be back at 6 p.m. for another interactive show like this one. But if anything breaks during the day, we do go live. So make sure you hit the notification bell when you subscribe. Have a lovely day, morning or evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you all later.